one of the primary reasons why is those people don't have a support system to fall back on. They might not have family members they can reach out to who might be able to help them. And as you saw on that video of the Austin project, they have a community where they become connected to, and they have a support system, and they feel valued, and they have relationships, and they're loved, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what we're called to do, right? As Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. And believe it or not, the homeless are our neighbors, no different than physically having our neighbors in the communities in which we live.
Recorded at Amplified Studio in downtown Des Moines, Give and Grow is more than a podcast. It's a commitment to our community. Founded by Andy and Sarah Suzanen alongside the RIA Group, this initiative is dedicated to uplifting the organizations and individuals who work every day to make Central Iowa a better place for all. Welcome to the Give and Grow podcast, where we share the stories of the nonprofits transforming lives in our community. Each organization is featured in 3 episodes, offering a deeper, more personal look at their impact. Through conversations with passionate staff, generous donors, and the very people whose lives have been changed by their work, our hope is simple: to connect, inspire, and strengthen the bonds that make our community thrive.
Well, welcome to the Give and Grow podcast. I'm your host, Siobhan Spain. This is our second of 3 episodes featuring Joppa. Joppa is a faith-based 501c3 organization whose mission is to help the homeless survive, find housing, and rebuild their lives. Sourcing a recent study by U.S. News and World Report, New York City, with a homeless population of 140,000 people, had a nearly 60% jump from 2023. Denver saw a 42% increase in 2024. Here in Polk County, depending on how you define homelessness, roughly 7,900 individuals experienced homelessness in 2024, according to Homeward organization and the Institute for Community Alliances. That's a lot, and it's growing across the nation. So a lot of things contribute to it: lack of housing, affordable housing, cost of living, low wages, all play a part. Joppa has been operating since 2008 and has expanded its services quite a bit since then. In 2023, it served nearly 2,200 people. They do this by delivering meals and heat to the homeless families and individuals. They also help individuals find housing, shelter, and resources that help them out of poverty. Another big part of what Joppa does is build community. Today, it's my pleasure to introduce Todd Robinson, who is part of the Joppa community of donors and volunteers. Welcome, Todd.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this very much.
Thanks for joining us. So you have a background in finance in Des Moines area.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Certainly. So I graduated from Iowa State with an accounting degree, and I got my CPA designation shortly after graduation, and I worked in the public accounting world for about 5 years, and then I left there and I went to work for Pioneer Hybrid International, Pella Corporation, Wells Fargo. So I've been with several different organizations, and then most recently I was with Renewable Energy Group up in Ames, where I was the Director of Investor Relations, interim CFO. And then in August of 2023, I retired from the corporate world. So.
All right. Well, congratulations on that
Thank
career
you.
and
Thank
your
you.
retirement.
Yes, thank you.
It seems well earned.
Yes.
Yes.
It's 30 some plus years in the corporate world can be a bit of a grind. So
Yeah.
I'm really thankful for the opportunities that now that has afforded us financially, and to be able to take time and do some travel.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving back to our community. It's so important. How did you come across Joppa, and what's your capacity there? How do you support them?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a longer story than you might think, but my wife and I, many, many years ago, almost a lifetime ago, volunteered and led a youth group at our church. And so through Hope Ministries, another great nonprofit organization in the Des Moines area, we volunteered to take food and other basic necessities out to the homeless. So that was our first real direct interaction with the homeless community in the metro area. Then a few years later, while we were at Lutheran Church of Hope, we were introduced to Joppa through a video where they were encouraging or offering the opportunity to volunteer to take out propane tanks and heaters out to the homeless people. So those two seeds were planted, although we really didn't act upon it at that time. And then a few years later, my wife and her small group Bible study team went down to Joppa and did a tour. And then after that, we started supporting them financially and have supported them financially ever since. In addition, we donate clothing and other household items to Joppa, who then in turn sell them through the Thrift Mart,
yes.
which if you're a thrifter, it's a great opportunity. If you haven't been, I encourage you to go. It's at 2300 Euclid is kind of the location. It's a great place to go pick up some really interesting treasures.
Absolutely.
For really
they do
good
such
value.
a great job. Yeah,
Yeah.
I highly recommend it.
So as I mentioned, then I retired in 23, and so that offered me an opportunity to spend more time with certain nonprofits that my wife and I are passionate about, and Joppa is one of those. And so right now I'm serving on the relationship and giving team,
Okay.
which one of our primary resources is to increase the donor base and obviously get financial support, but in addition, it's to then connect donors to the impact they make through their financial and other donations to those homeless people who are, the recipient of those resources. And so it's a big task, obviously.
What does that look like?
Yeah, so there's different ways through Joppa that you can give. You can give online at any time, but they have an annual campaign that they run in September, and then they have a big annual gala that last year my wife and I, Kelly, helped with in terms of organization, and we're doing that again this year. In fact, Kelly is the table host chair, so if anybody listening or watching wants to be a table host for this year's gala, reach out to Joppa and they can get you in touch with my wife, Kelly. This year's gala, if I get this right, is on Friday, November 7th. It's going to be at the Iowa Event Center because it's really too big for any hotel location to hold. So That's a good problem to have. So if you want to be a table host, reach out to my wife, or if you want to give in other ways, you can do so online, attend the gala through the annual campaign, or just show up at the location on Euclid.
Yeah, I find that galas have a lot of opportunity. Like, even if you're not that familiar with an organization, it's such a great opportunity to see the community turn out
Yes.
for the organization and learn more about it. So I love that aspect of galas. It's not just a party. It's very educational.
Yeah.
You get to see a lot of hands-on, first accounts of how they impact.
Yeah, as we were speaking before we started the podcast, right, just raising awareness for Joppa is a challenge, and for a lot of the other nonprofits in the metro area, but the gala is one way to do that. They show videos of people who have been on the street, or have been homeless, and then have found a way to make their way into a home, and kind of how that process works. So there is, somebody there last year that spoke, and they had a video as well. The village that we're going to probably speak about, the homeless tiny house village, if you will, that we'll speak to a little bit. Last year we had the founder of that village down in Austin, Texas. And so the goal is to kind of replicate that community first tiny home project down in Austin here in Des Moines. And he came up and spoke, and that was very impactful as well.
Yeah, I bet that was really great information for what's to come in Des Moines.
Absolutely. To learn, the pitfalls, the hurdles, the obstacles they had to overcome. But it is such a success in the Austin community that many of the folks at Joppa, I haven't had the opportunity yet, but we've had a lot of people with Joppa, as well as the city council and other folks, go down to Austin to tour that facility to see firsthand how successful it is.
Yeah, we talked about it a little bit on the first episode with Joe Stevens. It's a great model. It's great to have a model to replicate too, because then you see it in person, how it works, all the aspects that go into creating a community of permanent housing for the chronic homeless individuals and families. I thought it was very insightful for me to read about, and there's lots of articles about it, how it's being replicated throughout the U.S. And I don't I look forward to it being here. We need more options like that.
Yeah.
And it seems like the community connection aspect is so strong because it's not just about affordable housing.
Correct.
It's about all the other things that go on in daily life to make it successful.
Oh, absolutely. I think, being homeless has many reasons why people are homeless. It can be, generally financially, but there could be drug-related addiction. There could be mental health issues, a lot of reasons why. But one of the primary reasons why is those people don't have a support system to fall back on. They might not have family members they can reach out to who might be able to help them. And as you saw on that video of the Austin project, they have a community where they become connected to, and they have a support system, and they feel valued, and they have relationships, and they're loved, quite frankly.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think, what we're called to do, right? As Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. And believe it or not, the homeless are our neighbors, no different than physically having our neighbors in the communities in which we live.
Yeah, and if you think back on your life, I mean, surely there's been time when somebody helped you out.
Absolutely.
It is that absence of that, and because there's always a time that comes when you could use a little help in one way or another. And without that, it does make such a change in people's lives. And the fact that I like the aspect of the village that also gives purpose.
Yes.
And that's such an important part in life too, is to have a purpose and feel valued.
Right.
So we're looking forward to seeing what happens the rest of this year on the topic of Joppa Village. It's very exciting for Des Moines.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. It's been in the works now for probably well over a decade. There's been some fits and starts. As you can imagine, it takes some time to build consensus and get momentum. But I think we're at a point now where I think, to your point earlier, homelessness is increasing. The Des Moines metro area, Polk County continues to see increases. So I think the awareness is greater within the community. I think leaders are starting to realize that how we treat the homeless is a reflection on the community and how we, how they're seen as leaders. And so I do think there's some momentum being built up now for to get it across the finish line. And hopefully we get one project done and it's successful in the community, and we can replicate that elsewhere. Because
absolutely,
it's, it's
a team effort.
It's a team effort. There's a lot of people that are involved, and but I do think there's a certain amount of momentum that we have right now.
Yeah, that's great to hear. I wanted to know, is there a specific experience that you've had with your involvement with Joppa, either with an individual or a family, that sticks out to you, that kind of helps people envision what it's like to volunteer and what it's like to get to know people who have experienced homelessness? Yeah,
so it's interesting when you go out to the homeless and you deliver this, you realize that these people are really not a lot different than maybe your next door neighbor or your uncle or your sister or brother. They just have had something in their life happen, their circumstances such that that's put them where they are. And so one of the more interesting stories I have didn't happen to me, but it happened to a friend of my wife's. After her small group went down to tour Joppa, one of her friends, I'll call her Alice. It's not Alice. Her name's not Alice, but they had a trailer that they had sold, and so she had some pots and pans and odds and ends, and so she went down to Joppa to donate them, and there had been an individual who was there and was looking for pots and pans, and they didn't have any. And she showed up at the right time, and the volunteer realized that this was happening, and so was able to take the pots and pans from Alice and give them to the person who was looking for them. And so obviously that's a God-inspired, interaction that you can't make up. I mean, that's certainly an instance where both the donor directly saw the benefit and the recipient were blessed at the same time. So
yeah.
I think that's a great example of, many times, right, you might give financially and then you don't directly feel the impact of your giving, but in that particular instance, there was that direct interaction with the person who received them. So
yeah, that can inspire more giving as
Absolutely.
well, and more
Absolutely.
engagement. Absolutely. Well, with Give and Grow, we really wanted to inspire community members and listeners to get more engaged with the causes they care about. I know giving a check is so important. Volunteering is so important. I'm wondering, on my mind always is, how do we prime the next generation to follow suit? There's a lot of movement in the giving community.
Yes.
And I'm curious who's going to be stepping up in this next generation to really help carry the torch with all the great nonprofits that we have going on here. They do such critical work, and it's important to support them in person and financially.
Yeah, so I can speak to our situation. We have twin daughters who are adult age, and we've encourage them to volunteer along with us in different capacities with different nonprofits. And so that's one way to do it, right, to get them directly involved. Last year, my daughter and son-in-law helped us with the gala by handing out name tags and helping set up tables and things like that. So that's a direct example. And I just think awareness, obviously the next generation of leaders we need to look to carry the torch. And so they need to be aware of the issues, first of all, which sometimes as a younger person, you're maybe a little bit less self-aware and more focused on things that, you need to accomplish as a professional or what have you. But certainly the need is going to continue to be there for the homeless people. And there's other avenues, right? I'm a finance guy, so there's a donor-advised fund that people can create that they can contribute to and treat that a little bit like a foundation and pass the torch at the right time to their kids. But there's other things you can do in planned giving through wills and trusts and things like that you can kind of pass the torch on to your kids and the future generation.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of insight about the options, and that's great. What resources do you see? The Community Foundation, is that where you have
that's one avenue. And then just working, individually with financial planners, they'll be aware of the different means that you can get your kids involved in financial planning as well as charitable activities.
So when it comes to donating, there are so many nonprofits, and I know people sometimes maybe get paralyzed because they don't know what is more important than others.
Right.
And if what they can give would make a difference. What do you look for in charities and nonprofits before you decide to give? Yeah,
I think it's, you kind of have to, at least personally for my wife and I and our family, I think we look to what is the mission of the nonprofit. And then also making sure they're good stewards of your money, because, certainly through the years, there's been stories about, $1, given to an organization, 40 cents goes to administration and doesn't go directly to the beneficiaries, so to speak. And so I think those are a couple things to make sure that they're good stewards and they have, fiduciary responsibilities to people. But I do think if you're going to spend your time, your talents, and your treasure working with a charity, you need to make sure that they're aligned with your core values as well.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it might be, you might have a passion for it today or within a year, but then if it's not really aligned with your core values, it's probably not going to be a long-lasting relationship.
And I'm sure, you learned about Joppa at your church.
Yep.
A lot of people find it through family and friends as well. I think it's just a matter of just starting.
Yes.
Just and experience what it feels like to concentrate on somebody else and doing good for others. It's a good feeling.
Yeah,
right?
I think once you experience the selfless act of helping someone and seeing their reaction and realizing that you value them and let them know that they're loved, and seeing that reaction, I think is truly impactful and can be life-changing.
Yeah, that's excellent. What would you like to convey to listeners about homelessness in Central Iowa from your perspective?
Yeah, as we talked, right, it's very multifaceted, and if it were an easy solution, we would have solved it already, right? This isn't unique to Des Moines. It's a global issue, and it's a multitude of things. It's mental health, it's drug addiction, it's lack of affordable housing, But I think primarily it comes down to not having that support system and having families, other family members to help support you. And so I think as you think about the homelessness, put it in context and maybe put yourself in their shoes, or realize that that's not a choice that they're making for the most part. I realize there are a certain percentage of the homelessness people do not want to, be helped. But at the end of the day, most of those people want to be helped and want a better life and want to have a home. And so I think if you can put yourself in their shoes, have some empathy, realize that something caused them to be there. It wasn't a choice that they made, and they're trying to work themselves into a better place in life than where they are currently.
Yeah, I think it's so great to see when people have the support they need,
Yes,
and the space to do it
right
on their terms.
Yes,
can make a big difference. So kind of meeting people where they're at instead of forcing them into a solution that maybe wouldn't fit them in the long term.
Yeah.
It's been a great initiative to help out. There's so many nonprofits in the area to focus on. And like I told Joe, it's been, reason to focus on Joppa is because they're trying to do something different.
Yes.
And include something new into the community to really help it long term.
Yeah.
Not just temporary or patchwork, but the permanent housing with that wraparound services that will make a real difference for the people who live there.
Yeah, and I would encourage people to go to the Joppa website and actually look at the video of the project down in Austin, Texas, because conceptually we all might have an idea what a home, what a tiny villages project might look like, but you'll be amazed at the value that is created for the individuals down in the Austin community. And there are people around the United States that are just using that as their template to do this in Minneapolis or Chicago or wherever, because they've done such a great job of it. And the community down there has really embraced it. And I think that's a big hurdle to overcome, obviously, is to get the community there and in Des Moines eventually to say, okay, yes, we want this here, we accept it, and we'll support it. And I think people would be surprised at the outcome.
Yeah, I think there's even things to learn about community planning in general from it. Because, as the population grows and grows and the connection aspects get more and more digitized and not so much analog, there's a lot of importance in community as we go forward and staying connected with the people that we care about and finding the purpose in where we live.
Yeah. And, one of the aspects is the people that live in these homes are actually paying rent. So it's not like it's you move in for free and you have to pay rent and you have to work. And so I think it'd be really insightful for people to go out and watch that video, and you'll learn a lot as to what we're trying to replicate here in the Des Moines area from that project.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. And Joppa has so much good information out there about people who they've helped and stories and a lot of stats. So it's just joppa.org.
Yep.
Simple as that.
Thank you for Give and Grow for the opportunity to showcase Joppa and all the other great nonprofits in the Des Moines area. I think raising awareness is an issue for all the nonprofits, and so this really highlights the great work that we're doing at Joppa and the great work that other nonprofits are doing to make Des Moines a better place to live.
Listeners, if you've enjoyed this conversation and want to learn more about Joppa, please visit joppa.org. That's JOPPA.org. And visit us at giveandgrowdsm.com for updates and future episodes.